Welcome to Face Off. I'm Hi-Rez Bart. Big upsets in Europe last weekend.
Yeah, certainly were. I had some European food last night, upset my stomach, but I think it was worth it. Drybear. Worth it. I definitely think it was. In Europe, we had Worth Gaming take first place. Not only did they take first place, but they defeated TSM in the semifinals.
Yeah, a week before, they defeated Cloud9 as well. So they've taken wins over the top two European teams over the last 2 weeks. The first place finished for the first time last weekend. Now, in terms of points, this first Worth Gaming pretty steady in that second, third contention. It's going to be pretty easy for them with another good showing this weekend to move up into those top spots. Now, from a seeding perspective, that gives them a pretty big advantage being in second over third. You get the opportunity to face off against the kind of 6th, 7th place seeds more often, which should be, well, where they came from, they know those teams pretty well. Now, looking at their roster, and the question seems to be, can they repeat? I think with the nerfs coming in to some of their favorite gods, Poseidon maybe most relevant to Carino, I give Worth a pretty good shot at taking third next week. I don't see a second or first place finish for them in week number 4.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree on that one. I think Corneo loves Agni. Agni got a huge bonus. Now, he lost the CC immunity on his dash,
he loses a lot
there, but at the same time, he still has faster animations, which means he can land the stuns every single time the burst is there. I think Agni's going to see him go on the up and up. Poseidon being down a little bit, but still very strong. There's a lot of things there. Corneo, a strong player.
Agni as well.
That's exactly right. Yeah, definitely. Agni is going to get a bit of a boost this weekend. And I think with Shaggy Shank, them going together, and they did this without Princess Tomato, their normal support. So I think they have a lot of potential there. I'm going to put a lot of vested interest in Worth. I say they still go into the finals this week.
Yeah, you think, do they take it though? And who are they against?
I say it's going to be against TSM. They take second.
Okay, so they beat Cloud9 then in the round of 8 or round of 4. I guess it would be they would play them. So I mean that's a pretty big prediction for Worth. Now, in terms of their ability to kind of finish the drill, close the games, keep going. I mean, how do you think that they are doing? Are they stacking it up?
I think they absolutely are. I mean, last week we saw TSM get 3-shotted. By the Scylla ultimately. They all grouped up, they all clustered. The same thing to C9. They definitely have the potential to get that kind of positioning into it. They've been working very hard. You can see, I mean, there's definitely results coming out from their scrimming and their practicing and how they're kind of putting it into the implementation. And I think that's really what we're seeing here, kind of like in North America with Cognitive Gaming.
Sure, that brings us greatly and well into our next topic, Cognitive versus Dignitas, what is turning into, well, a more bitter rivalry than it was before. It was already, those two teams were kind of vying for that first place position.
All tied up.
Last season, it was just like Cog wins, right? Season 2 now, Dignitas and Cog kind of trading back and forth. Who do you have as a better team?
Honestly, it's hard to say because we saw last in the launch event qualifiers, all 8 weeks, it was all Cog, went to the launch event, dead. They didn't have any kind of performance. They made a lot of mistakes there where Dig kind of skyrocketed there. So they have the potential. They have the land experience. So I think with it being a little more even and the fact that Cog is struggling to find that element that they had in the launch event qualifiers, I mean, they had their combos together. They were very consistent. Now the game's changing a lot, especially with the last patch we just had, Warriors being brought down, Guardians now being more viable. It seems like they're not the team that has the ability to acquiesce with the changes as quickly, and that's going to hurt them a lot. Traditionally, I think this patch, I don't think they're going to do that well.
Traditionally, that has been Dignitas' strength, the ability to kind of change with the times. They adopt new strategies faster. Zapman notably revolutionizing Hunter builds.
It's Jenny Z.
Oh, Jenny Z, that's right. Yeah, I don't know why that changed, but Zapman, known for that kind of play, trying to revolutionize Hunter builds, doing a job. Lassus with Jungle Athena, those types of things. They find ways to usually make any type of new meta situation or new gods available work for them. I agree, that helps them out over Cog, but Cog has been playing just so well recently. I mean, just winning lanes is basically what they're doing. Notably stealth in North America last week with Agni, a god that hadn't seen much love or play in North America. Lobster, the only one really bringing him to tournament play recently. Doing extremely well versus a team like Dignitas that often does quite well against gods like Agni with counter picks.
Well, I think the biggest thing as well is there's going to be these small players that make big differences on their teams. And I think the next one we can talk about is Proxy QQ on Exposed Secrets or not.
That's right.
Secrets.
That's right.
Now, Proxy had an interesting history, right, where he started E11, one of the teams that I'm sure nobody even really remembers or knows. And then, of course,
became SK quickly.
They went into SK, became that name, and they went to launch event. Obviously, they were there. There's a lot of stories we could tell about Proxy at the launch event. But honestly, going into Exposed Secrets, they were highly valued. This last weekend, without Proxy, they lost to Elo Fishers, which they were 7th seed, Elo Fishers 10th seed, and they lost in the early preliminaries.
Which means they were unseeded, basically.
That's right.
Under 8, you're unseeded.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, losing to an unseeded team after losing one player, I mean, but Proxy, I mean, what? There was Team Q, there was E-Lemon.
Yes.
There was a lot of teams that he has been on.
SK twice.
SK twice, only player split for SK 2 times. You know, it's starting to kind of shape up like, is Proxy QQ just like the Randy Moss, you know, the Michael Irvings of the world? Just too much trouble to be worth it. Dennis Rodman even. I mean, like, is it just that he's too destabilizing? These teams keep on forming. He does very well for them. But then it's a one-season engagement at maximum. You know, so I guess I'll pose a question back to you. Is it worth it to have Proxy on your team?
Honestly, I think he is the Kickstarter of the SMITE competitive scene. He gets those teams going and then gives them a push, and then I think there's just too many conflicting ideas. I think Proxy is not a compromiser. He can't pick up what he wants and just have a common ground with this team. He decides, this team isn't what I want anymore, I'm going to go somewhere else and start a new team. And he's very good at it. I mean, credit goes to him. He's great at starting these teams. He's great at getting these people along, but I think we're at the point now where there's so much talent in the SMITE competitive scene that they don't need him.
Is he a team killer?
I think he's a team starter, and I think he's a team killer.
Proxy QQ. Well, speaking of teams, you know, kind of breaking up, starting, ending, whatnot, Down to Frag.
Down to Frag.
Down to Frag, a team that we saw come on to the North American competitive scene last season, starting about halfway through, looked like a strong contender, but likely would have made it to the launch tournament over denial with a longer time frame to find those wins. They have had some shakeups in recent past.
Yes.
Kiki Star leaving, Kiki the man of many names, least of which is Kiki. And then Pern going to Jungle for 5 Angry Men last week, which may or may not be a permanent change. And then, you know, Return versus COG, where Kiki played for Return, they almost beat the top North American team. They did lose in kind of a spectacular fashion at the end of the game, similar to SMITE versus COG in the tournament, in the 100K tournament. But Down to Frag, better to stay together, or should they farm out their members, and is it going to work?
I think they're better just farming out. There's a lot of personality, there's a lot of motion there, there's a lot of focus there. They had a lot of talent, and I think that was carrying them through the competitive scene, getting them those you know, longer preliminary wins going along the tournament brackets. But I think them splitting is actually a good thing for them, and they'll find better homes. There's a lot of teams now which have partial complete lists, and I mean, there are some teams that just, they have great talent, but they don't have 5 members of talent. They have 3 members of talent.
4 Angry Men plus
4 members
Pern.
of talent. And you're exactly right. I mean, with Kiki going over Return and facing up against COG, I think this is more, this is 50-50 to me. I think 50% COG has points of failure that are easy to exploit, and 50% Return was doing very, very well. We saw this at the launch event versus Snipe, COG. They lost that Fire Giant where Trick just says, "Is this your Fire Giant?" "Nope, it's mine." And he just leaves. And it's because they didn't coordinate their hogs right. They used all their hogs before he got there. And I think that's the biggest thing about COG is they have so many points of failure where they're not, you know, paying attention to detail and making sure they're always hitting their marks, and they had that point. And I think teams can really exploit that, like Return almost did. And so them picking it up is a really big thing for Return. But you know, at the same time, I think scattering the D2F guys around is good.
Sure. So I mean, looking at 5 Angry Men, are they better with Pern over Dare to Care?
No.
No. Dare to Care is the better player.
Yes.
I think Pern, very aggressive. Tend to match up so well with, you know, that solo lane Aphrodite.
Yes.
Down to Frag had something going there with those sustain comps, and I'm not sure that that translates quite as well, but definitely a player that has good insight into the game, as we saw on the analyst desk at the 200K event. So maybe he does bring something to 5 Angry Men. If nothing else, a very, very aggressive style of play, which maybe helps kickstart them a little bit more to where they found success as Denial with Pawn playing hyper-aggressive as Thor with Aegis Amulet and letting them crash in on top of him. Pern a little bit more to that playstyle perhaps than Dare to Care. Really more of a kind of a Hunbat's assassin-y player than an initiator, which maybe is what they need. So we'll see if they find success this week moving in, if Pern is still on the 5 Angry Men or if Down to Frag continues on.
Do you give them your vote?
Do I give 5 Angry Men? Do I think Pern's going there?
Yes.
I'm going to say yes. I think that he'll play another week with them. It seemed pretty successful this last weekend. They didn't place too well, but I think they'll go with it. But that, Drybear, brings us to the end of Face Off for this week.
It certainly does.
I think I won.
You think you won?
I think I won.
What did you win? European food?
Your notepad.
I didn't want it anyway.
Wrecked.
You can keep it. But at the same time, Worth kept their first place.
They did.
They definitely had that, and they earned it. Not only did they knock out TSM in the semifinals, they also got their first place win against C9. Now, at the same time, C9 is looking weak. They have their good plays, but they also have their poor plays, a lot of mistakes made. missed abilities, poor initiations, bad grouping, no reactions, awareness. So I think there's a lot of room right now, more so in European region more than the North American region, but at the same time, there's a lot of room in the competitive scene right now. So I think if you're a new team looking to come in, now's the time.
That's right, yeah, and you can join all of the action. You and I commentating Saturday. It will be me and DM for the North American tournament, 12 noon, where we'll see if the down to frag 5 Angry Men merger goes down, if COG can beat Dig for another week, and if we'll see any new teams hop onto the scene. Sundays in Europe, that's your specialty, I think.
That's exactly right. 9 a.m. Eastern is going to be me and Hindu Man in European time, and also North American time for me because I'm not European. But at the same time, a lot of plays being made there. We saw a lot of upsets last week, of course. See if Worth can do it again. Now they got first place. They knocked out TSM. A lot of blood match there. And the prior week, 2 weeks ago, Worth went against TSM in the grand finals. They went 2-1 and lost. This time, they knocked them out in semifinals. So I think the biggest thing about Worth is they want to get rid of those big contenders in the semifinal round. So if you want to be watching, you want to be watching during the semifinal round and then into the grand finals. Big plays there, big upsets, a lot of talent. I think there's a lot of room as well.
Yeah, fun fact for Worth, only team that's gotten to have won a game in every best of 3 that they've played.
That's right.
Not something we normally see. A
They
lot of
came out of
2-0s.
nowhere.
A lot of 2-0s. But that does it for us this week, Drybear. It was a good one.
It was a good one.